how many times I have clients that come in that don't have a CPA. They've been filing, going to H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, or using TurboTax, which everybody's familiar with these resources. They're cheap, they're fairly easy to use, but as a business owner, I don't like any of those resources. I have new clients come in and they haven't done anything for the year. Nothing's been reconciled, nothing's really been entered into QuickBooks, and they don't have a good idea of what their business is even doing. And then they get to the end of the year and it's like, oh my gosh, I missed out on all of these things that I could have done because nothing was caught up. So as you're starting to work through closing your books and you've kind of gone through, you've reconciled and gotten everything ready, there's a few other things you want to check before you can tell your CPA, yes, I wholeheartedly believe that these books are in proper order, everything is accounted for. One big thing I always say to look for is go through your general ledger accounts. Make sure that every transaction is in the right account. If you need to move it, now is a good time to move it. QuickBooks has some easy ways to do that by going to accounting tools, reclassifying transactions. You can also go under the specific vendor name and move that to the correct GL account. If there's mass ones that you need changed, if it's one or two offs, you can just click and put it into the right account. But that's always a big part because you want to be able to look at, here's what all my expenses are, and compare it to the last year to see what are the trends starting to be in your company. Did you spend too much here? Did you spend just the amount, just the correct amount here, and what that looks like? And then the last part of what you want to be able to send to your CPA is just a list of all of the 1099s that were sent out. You'll want to give them all of your payroll reports, so all of the 941s, all of your state reports. You'll give them W-2s, W-3s, and then usually they will have access to your QuickBooks account so they can go in and take a look as well. And so these are always, like I mentioned, things that you just do by the end of the year. If your CPA doesn't ask for certain things, then that's kind of a red flag of, hey, do I have the right CPA? Am I working with the right firm? And also, if you are in specific niches, there are sometimes other documentations that your CPA will ask you for, especially if you own land and different things like that, where you're getting rental income and it's under the LLC. So there's all kinds of things that come to that. So a quick and easy way to find all of your payroll reports are, if you use QuickBooks Payroll, you can just go into the payroll section on the left-hand side. You can find all of your tax returns that were filed for payroll, download those, submit them to your CPA's portal. If you're using Gusto, Gusto has the same way. You can download all your reports from there. So does ADP, Paychecks, kind of anything that you need. If your CPA sometimes requires all of your year in or your month end, December ended, bank statements, credit card statements, all of those, same thing. You would just download them from the bank, upload them to your portal. 1099s, depending on where you file them, you can download the data, either if they're filed in QuickBooks, Track1099, Gusto. They all have really good reporting systems to be able to download that data that's needed. And then I always like to say, if you're in the e-commerce industry, some CPAs will want that final month end. If you're an Amazon or Walmart, even TikTok, be able to submit those December ended statements so that they can be able to see what that balance was, to be able to match it to what's in your accounting software. So it's very important to have a CPA. How many times I have clients that come in that don't have a CPA, they've been filing, going to H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, or using TurboTax, which everybody's familiar with these resources. They're cheap, they're fairly easy to use, but as a business owner, I don't like any of those resources. I think they're really great when you're a simple individual with a W-2 and nothing else, and they can file and get you what you need. But when you're a business, there's a lot of tax credits that are out there. There's unknown tax rules that you wouldn't know of. And sometimes these softwares don't know because they only have so much built into their algorithms. And you also need somebody in the tax industry that can strategize with you. And so I think it's very, very important to have a good CPA that understands what you need, where you want to go, and can help you with the strategizing for your business. And that's why I always tell all of my clients, if you don't have a CPA, I'm happy to, share my list with you of who I have worked with, who I enjoy working with, and understand that tax planning is a big part of it. There's a lot of CPAs out there that only do taxes. They don't do the tax planning side of it, which shocking sometimes, I know, because you would think that they would plan some of that along with you, but a lot of them don't. And as a business owner, that's important to have, because you need to know what's out there. There's certain resources and tax credits that are available if you have employees, and you wouldn't know that by going to any of the other three places that I mentioned to you. So having that and being able to find a good CPA is tricky. I think it's kind of like when you hire somebody, you got to interview them. You got to make sure that they can do what you need them to do. Ask around your network. Who do people in your industry use, your friends, etc. But I would say the key things that when you're looking for a CPA of interviewing them is, do you do tax strategy? Can you meet with me multiple times per year to strategize the best route for my business to go? Will you do my individual and business taxes? I've seen some CPAs that will not do business tax. They will only do individual taxes. So making sure that they do both. And then also, how well do they know the industry that you're in? Some people are in construction industry, and that requires a CPA with sometimes a little bit different knowledge to know how the construction side of things works, and then also e-commerce, retail, etc. But just asking, what is their specialty in, and if they don't have what you need, being able to ask them even for a recommendation, or just going back out there and using good old Google and researching and finding what's best for you. So now that we covered how to find a good CPA, I want to just come back one step to say how important it is also to have either a fractional CFO, a fractional accounting team, or even if you have an accountant or bookkeeper on staff in your organization, to make sure that your books are always up to date. How many times I have new clients come in and they haven't done anything for the year. Nothing's been reconciled. Nothing's really been entered into QuickBooks, and they don't have a good idea of what their business is even doing. And then they get to the end of the year and it's like, oh my gosh, I missed out on all these things that I could have done because nothing was caught up. And I see that a lot in the small business world, because the small business owners are the visionary. They're the idea drivers. They're out there making sales and growing the company. They don't like the numbers a lot of times. They don't want to enter it, and it just kind of gets placed on a back burner. So if that can be a priority for 2025, is to find a good accounting team to be able to manage your books, and finding a good CPA, that just it adds a lot of value to your company. It helps eliminate a lot of pain points along the way, and ensures that at any given time you know how your business is doing and can project and forecast months and weeks ahead to know if there's any kind of funky things that are going to be happening, and be able to adjust for it. So all of this is probably a little bit overwhelming. It is a lot. There's a lot of things to look at when it comes to year end, but there's also things that you can do going forward that can make this less painful in the years, months to come. So one thing is making sure that you're always reconciling your books at the end of each month. That is reconciling your bank, your credit cards, loans, etc., whatever that looks like. And that way you have a really good picture of what is going on. And this helps alleviate that pain, like I mentioned, when you come to the end of the year and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't done anything and I don't know what's going on. How do I do this? So that's a good way to just kind of get that going. Find a good accountant or bookkeeper that knows what they're doing. Again, I am always happy to talk to you. We do all kinds of accounting services for clients. And then we will work very closely with CPAs when it comes to the tax season part of things. But always happy to hop on a call, kind of talk through what your pain points are. And then we do assessments to see what's going on, and then giving you a plan going forward of how to manage your books. So there's a lot of resources out there to help you if you get stuck. If you just Google how to close out your year-end books. You can also visit my YouTube channel. I've covered a lot of different things throughout the last few months and years of what it looks like to go more into detail when closing out your books. What is a balance sheet like? What's a profit and loss like? Payroll, all of those things. And I know I posted some of those a little bit earlier this year for a good reference point for you if you feel stuck. When looking at year-end close, we also want to look at purchase orders. How many of them are outstanding? Do we need to review and change anything on those? Did we have partial orders come in and they just need to be closed out because they aren't going to ship anymore? So that's a really good thing to just look into detail on, is what is your open purchase order list? What can be closed out? What still needs to be open? Another thing to look at is if you are an S Corp company and maybe you only have one employee, maybe you have a couple employees, but I've seen this with owners. A lot of times they need to do a bonus payroll run at the end of the year to help alleviate taxes. Again, this can be you working with your CPA and them letting you know, hey, this is what my tax burden is going to be. Let's run a year in bonus check per se, and we put 80 or 90% of that check to taxes. And then again, that helps that when you go into the next year and you're paying your estimated taxes, it keeps it at a less painful number a lot of times. So that's a good thing to look at. If you're an LLC, you're probably not doing any payroll. That's usually an S Corp thing for owners. But again, if you're just a regular LLC, you probably have just a standard payroll for all of your employees. Accounting has its own set of rules when it comes to year-end close, and so do other departments in your organization. HR being a big one, looking at PTO accruals. Do you have rules in place where all PTO gets paid out at the end of the year if it's not used? Do you carry it over to the next year? Have you updated your employee handbooks because there's new rules that are coming out at the beginning of the year? I know this happens a lot with the ever-changing minimum wage, that you have to go in and update your employee handbook so everybody is in on that. Same thing with new insurance rules, all of those things. So I would say that's a good thing to sit down with if you have somebody in your HR department, or if you've outsourced it. A lot of times the payroll companies can help with that as well. And then looking at sales and marketing, just reviewing what was spent that year, what the budget is going to look like for next year. Those are just key things of looking at those metrics now that accounting has kind of pulled in all the numbers that need to be done. And then now all the other departments can start to look and make decisions for budgets for next year. As always, follow me on my YouTube channel, LinkedIn, any of the other socials. I'm going to be highlighting a lot of different financial strategies in January and February of next year, so you don't want to miss those. So make sure you're subscribed so you are notified when all of those get released. Also, don't forget to scan the QR code in the bottom of the screen to get your checklist for year-end close. And as always, I'm always happy to speak with you. Feel free to DM me on any of my social channels, and we can talk about what your year-end closing looks like and how you might need help with your 2025 goals. You can also email me, Christy@ChristyBarber.com, with any questions you have. Also, letting me know if there's certain content items that you would like to see addressed. Feel free to email me about that as well.